Hi, welcome to Ruminate on This, small bits of information from AMTS, the Nutritionist webinars. In this next clip, Daniel Scothorn talks about how maybe nutritionists can consider decluttering their diets. In this current market with quotas and very low milk price, perhaps this is a good time to really look at the ingredients that you have in your diets.
One night I was with Heather, and I think after the kids went to bed, and we had it on. We had Netflix on. And we were watching one of those home organization shows, right? Like, just here's how to declutter your house. So the thought came to me that this is like something I really see common over my career in the nutrition industry as well. Now, maybe it's because I don't have the smarts of other nutritionists, and I can't think to that decimal level when it comes to formulation, or maybe, I thought that maybe I am missing something. Maybe there is a reason to have 6 protein ingredients in a supplement or a dairy ration, but maybe not. Maybe it doesn't have to be that complex. So I wrote an article, and it highlighted these 5 points. Removing redundant protein ingredients. So, and I think I have enough experience now over the past 20 years to say that I've seen herds excel by just having 1 or 2 protein ingredients. Now, maybe there's a cost advantage to have that 3rd or 4th protein ingredient, but I don't know if in a lot of cases if that's correct to say. Yes, maybe we can formulate the RDP perfectly and the lysine methionine just right if we have that 6th protein ingredient. But really, are we going to see the return on investment? The second thing was just to use 1 supplemental source of starch. Many dairies around the world, with the exception of the deserts of the UAE or wherever there's no irrigation, everybody else has corn silage generally. So that's bingo. That's 1 source of starch right there. Now, how many more sources of starch do we need, or will a cow really benefit from? Well, 20 years ago, I used to hear nutritionists say, oh, cows got to have 2 sources of starch, dry starch, and this is how we optimize the ratio of starch to protein. And this is how we synchronize, I'm using air quotes, synchronize everything. But we've seen successes with just 1 additional source of starch beyond corn silage. Also taken into account that many of our forages are loaded with other forms of NFC or non-forage carbohydrates. Like, we've got lots of pectins in alfalfa. Soy hulls have copious amounts of soluble fiber. Silage acids themselves, I mean, they're all contributing to NFC. So probably just 1 source of supplemental starch does it most of the time, unless you have logistic issues, and it's better to have 2 sources just for security reasons. The third thing I noticed, and this is 20 years ago when I was practicing nutrition in Western Canada, it was quite common to feed chopped straw to backgrounding diets for beef cattle or feedlot cattle for finishing. And then it crept into the dairy industry, and so now at this point, or especially 5 years ago, I should say, is that almost every farm in Canada at a certain point was feeding straw to some group of cattle. And, is it necessary? Yeah. You know what? Maybe it is. Maybe there's a shortage of effective fiber on some of these farms, and it really pays. But a lot of times the straw can be swapped out for just a higher fiber alfalfa, or a grass, letting a grass mature to 45 to 50 days rather than cutting it at 28 days. And and then the 4th thing is like dropping the nice to haves. And this is a term I think I might have stole from Mike Hutchins. I think this might be one of his terms, the nice to haves. And somebody correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe somebody else came up with it. I don't know. Wasn't me though. And those are those ingredients that sort of are in there. Many times they're additives. Like maybe a farm will have 2 different types of yeast, or 3 different toxin binders, or something like that, or just Definitely not trying to attack yeast or toxin binder companies here, but just maybe there's a point where there is redundancies. And then the fifth thing I wrote about in that article was dropping these antagonistic feeds. So many times you go to a farm and you'd see the use of straw, for example, in the lactating diet. And of course, the number one reason why people feed straw is for rumen health, or their butterfat percentage is low, or they're just out of forage and have no choice but to feed chopped straw. But that would be not as common as the other two things. So they may have, at the same time, they may be feeding like a high oil corn distiller grains. And so in other words, is your butterfat depression a result of the lack of straw in the diet, or is it the fact that, or maybe you're not feeding enough palmitic acid? Maybe you got to up it from 300 grams to 500 grams to get the fat up. No, I think a lot of times maybe it's just the fact that we have some antagonists in there, like maybe too much polyunsaturated fatty acids from distillers grains. Maybe we have a high oil content pressed soybean meal, like an expeller meal that was done on farm, and we're trying to just push too much of that to our cows. So there could be many, many reasons. See, those are the 5 things I wrote about in that article. And to conclude on that point, I've seen diets with 30 to 40 ingredients, but we have to remember that cows evolved on 3 feeds, and that was grass, dirt, and water. Okay, so how many ingredients do we need?
Decluttering or Marie Kondoing our possessions is really popular right now. Maybe we should look at it for our rations too. These shorts are brought to you by AMTS, Agricultural Modeling and Training Systems. For more information on this and any other webinar, email webinars@agmodelsystems.com.